I'm so excited to share how I fixed the neck on this top-down raglan knit sweater because it turned out really nice and I really love it. It's so cozy. I've been wearing it a ton. I made it with Caron's Simply Soft worsted weight yarn, and the base pattern was from a designer online that I found when I googled free sweater patterns, and it's Ashley Lillis, and I'll try to remember to put that below. And the pattern was called Winter Bluff, but I changed it up a bit because that's what creative people do. And you know, so I did color blocking, and I also reversed it out, and so the right side is reverse stockinette and is all bumpy. I knit it the other way. Long story short, I wanted to knit it at a looser gauge, but I didn't modify anything with the collar, and so that turned out bigger than I wanted it to. But I went into it knowing that I was probably going to pick up again after I finished and make a little drawstring casing, but it turned out even bigger than I had anticipated. And so what I decided to do was I had to pick up and actually reduce my stitches a little bit more at the raglan, and then continue up and knit this collar, and then it's folded over and seamed to the original rib collar. The other thing that I did is I changed, and this is a seed stitch because I really like how seed stitch looks, and I thought it went really well to the fabric that I decided would be the front here. And then I just thread this really pretty little lace through it to be a little like drawstring, but I can also pull it and wear it wider, kind of like that if I want to, or if it's windy and chilly, I can snug it up at my neck, and it's been really comfortable. I'm going to come back. So I have this book that I picked up at a craft store one time, and it has like so many different ways to make a sweater and all the things, and I haven't actually made a pattern from it, but it's really handy to look at things when you want to alter stuff. And so I went to the section of the collars just so that I could get an idea of what my possibilities were for the collar that I was working with. I really didn't want to undo this edge and then reknit the collar because it was my cast on edge, and I'm lazy. I just wanted to pick it up and modify it. Ultimately, it didn't really satisfy me with any good ideas, and so I went back to thinking about it and looking at it and thinking about how I wanted to do a drawstring collar, and so I just moved forward with it to see what would happen. I needed to decide where would be best to pick up stitches. Of course, I wanted to use a smaller needle size than I originally used. I think I went down one or two sizes, and I found that on what I was considering to be my right side of the sweater, the purl bumps were really easy to pick up the stitches, and I just chose to pick up all of the purl bumps that are kind of making a frown as opposed to the purl bumps that are making a smile. Whatever you choose, be consistent. Then we need to place our stitch markers at all of our seams for the raglan shaping, because I needed to also adjust the yoke to fit a little bit better and bring everything up a little bit closer. And so I wanted to do some rounds of decreasing. So now we're just going to place markers at each shoulder seam so that as we come around to them, we can decrease on either side of the marker and continue in the shaping that it originally was designed to have. Okay, so now we need to decrease at each side of these markers that we placed and all the shoulder seams, and you just want to use the same decrease that was in the original pattern. And in my case, one side was a slip knit and the other side was a knit two together. So I'm just going to go all the way around, decreasing on either side of each of these markers. So I decreased until I got to the stitch count I wanted, and then I decided to start a seed stitch for the collar. I contemplated doing a ribbing, but I decided I'd like to do a seed stitch. So you knit one, purl one for this first round of seed stitch, and round 2 of the seed stitch is to purl one, knit one. So basically you purl the knits and knit the purls. So I probably already mentioned, doing a seed stitch here, and I want to add in some striping of my contrast color into this collar, but I don't want to get the joggle that you can sometimes get where you can see your change of color, and so I am slipping a stitch. So my first row I actually, or I guess I should say on my last round of the main color, I slipped my last stitch, and so it didn't get knit until the next round with the contrast color. And now this time I am slipping the first stitch of this next round, and I have moved my beginning round marker to there so that I know this is my new beginning of round. And every time I go around now, I'm going to be slipping the first stitch after the marker. And that'll just continue as I do my changing colors. And I haven't decided yet how thick or thin I want these stripes. I only have a little bit of my contrast color left, and I don't want to have to go to the store, so I'm going to be stingy with it probably. And anyway, so I guess next time I check back in, you'll see what I decided to do. So I finished knitting the desired depth of my new collar, and I did it so that I could fold it over. So this is going to be a kind of like a turtleneck, a wide turtleneck, but it's going to be folded over. This lighter blue aqua color is going to be at the top at my fold, and on the outside I have my striping, and then towards the inside I just have the main color gold. And because I am fixing the too big of ribbed collar that I have, I remember I picked up in front of it, and so I still have this original ribbed collar here hanging out on the inside, and I decided I could save myself some time and not have to knit all the way to where then I attach it down to the body at the bottom of this ribbing. Instead, I knit to a point where I could attach to the top of this ribbing, and that would take me the rest of the way, if that makes sense. This is going to be part of the inside of this folded collar, and I've been binding off around, and at the same time I've been picking up this edge and attaching it. And this is all going to be on the inside of my sweater, and so it's not going to show, but I've been trying to just evenly pick it up because I went down a few stitches to snug up my collar, and so this one has more stitches, about, what did I decide, like 16 more stitches than it does now. And so every once in a while I'm skipping, and actually I am not picking up every single stitch at all. So I'm just going to show you what I'm doing, and I really started just making it up as I went along, and it seems to be working out. So I also decided I want to make sure this still stays stretchy, and so I am kind of doing a modified stretchy bind off. So what I do when I'm ready to pick up one of these edge stitches is I'm just holding it loosely and seeing what stitch looks like it's ready to come up, and this one looks like it's going to be pretty easily picked up, and I'm putting it on my left hand needle, and then I am knitting those two together, and then I'm just binding off normally. Now what I'm doing, the next step, is that I do the Jenny's stretchy bind off, where I yarn over, knit one, and then I pass both that yarn over and the original stitch off and over, and I'm doing that 2 times. So I get some stretch there, and then I'm going back to this side and looking and seeing what looks like a good stitch over here to pick up, and I'm putting it on my left needle, and I'm just repeating this bind off process. And I really hope once I get this all the way off the needles that it lays nicely. I feel like it is. So let's hope I'm actually going to get a collar that I like instead of the collar that was too big. You know, I'm just really done with feeling stressed out about knitting garments, and especially when they don't turn out exactly as I had planned, and I'm ready to be able to modify things to make it so I like it and I'll wear it. Okay, so here you can see I have just 4 stitches left to bind off, and so I'm just gonna see where I'm at on this underside. Oh, the beauty of this too was I was able to tuck in like all my ends inside collar here, there they are. So I won't have any of those ends up here to weave in. Just, oh look, I'm going to tuck him in too. They are just going to all hang out there and add more warmth. Well, I didn't cut that very long, did I? Good thing it's going to the inside. Okay, moment of truth here. Remove these stitch markers. And I'm going to see what I think. So, it's laying pretty nicely. And it's definitely folded nice. This looks really good just by... So to finish this neckline up, I decided that it should have a drawstring through it, which was kind of my idea at the beginning, but I wasn't quite sure if that's what I would end up doing, so I didn't mention it when we got started on this collar. But because have folded it over and seamed it all up, on the inside we made a open tube all the way around, and so I found this pretty lace. I thought about knitting an I-cord, but this roll spool of lace was just sitting on my workbench and I was eager to get done, and I saw it and I was like, hey, that'll look great. So I cut off a length that would go around in here plus some extra inches, and then I tied a knot on one side, and I did not anticipate anything like making any holes or anything in this neckline, as you saw when we were knitting this up. So what I did was just found a place to go, and knit fabric is very stretchy and loose, so I just went in, and because I put the knot here, I could feel it, and I fed it all the way around, and then I just popped back out a few stitches away from my original hole, so looks like about 3 stitches apart there, and pulled it through, and then I straightened it all out and put it on, decided what length I wanted to cut these strings to, cut them, and then knot them at the end, made sure that they were big enough that it's not going to pull back through really easily, and ta-da, we're done. I love it so much. So thank you for watching how I fixed this collar, and yeah, it was kind of just made up as I went along, and maybe it'll be useful to you and maybe it won't, but it was really satisfying for me to not have to undo the knitting, but to utilize what was already there and just make it fit how I wanted it to. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.